welcome back to the channel. We are going to continue our adventure in the Lone Wolf series of Choose Your Own Adventure novels, Book 4, The Chasm of Doom. Last time, we made our way south from Homeguard to try to find Captain Duval, which we have found now. Excuse me. After racing across a active battlefield trying to get to them, we were shot by an arrow, saved by Captain Duval, and now we are going to find out what is going to happen next. So let's get started. Read aloud. Where's the read aloud option? Oh, that's why. Okay, let's try that again. Read aloud. Here we go.
I was hoping the king would send a large search party, says Captain Val Riley, now having fully recovered from his exhaustion. I was beginning to tire of this town. You rise from your straw bed and offer your thanks to the captain. His brave and timely action saved you from certain death. 'Tis nothing to compare with you, Lone Wolf. Your bravery is legend. Your presence here is worth 100 men. He asks you about your mission, and you recount the events that have led you to this meeting, the ride south, the loss of your company, your passage through the Makan mines and the bandits. Yes, the bandits, Baraka's men, retorts Val, his gruff voice conveying his contempt for them and their leader. It seems we have both suffered at his hand. A month ago, he and his Vasagonian renegades ambushed my troop on the Ruanon pike. We were sorely outnumbered and the fight was indeed bitter. But we broke free from them and escaped here to Ruanon. We have been beleaguered ever since and praying for help to arrive. We have enough weapons to resist them, but we have barely enough food and water to survive. You ask what has become of the people of Ruanon. Most are now slaves. Baraka has taken the mines and he uses the Ruanese as forced labor. Other than yourself, only one man has escaped from the mines and survived the warhounds and the bandit snipers. That man is Baron Oren Vanelund. Come, I shall take you to him. Dval leads you to the topmost chamber of the watchtower and pushes open an iron-shod door. The sight that greets you fills your heart with sorrow and pity.
That doesn't sound very good.
Oren Vanelund is the 15th Baron of Ruanon, a noble warrior of royal lineage, and 5th in succession to the throne of Sommerlund. This once proud and chivalrous warlord now lies upon the cold stone floor of the chamber, red-eyed and whimpering like a frightened dog. He has lost everything, says Dval quietly. Baraka has destroyed his castle, his land, his town, and his family. His sons are dead, and his only daughter has been taken captive by Baraka himself.
You know what's going on
I
there.
fear the ordeal has turned his mind. The pathetic man raises his tear-stained face, and with feeble voice mutters a curious rhyme, over and over again. When a fair royal maid on the altar dies, the dead of Makengorge shall rise.
Okay. Well, I guess technically we could just write this down, but clearly the scroll here is meant to make it so that we can record this, which means we're not going to be able to use it later, so we'll just go to here.
You must save her, Lone Wolf. You must prevent the sacrifice. The Baron's voice is choked with emotion. Save who? Who must he save? Questions Captain Dval, as he tries to calm the excited Baron. My daughter, Madeline, of course, the Baron answers. Tears are welling up in his eyes and nervously he wrings his hands. Then he utters the ominous prophecy. When the full moon shines o'er the temple deep, a sacrifice will stir from sleep the legions of a long-forgotten lord. When a fair royal maid on the altar dies, the dead of Makengorge shall rise to claim their long-awaited reward. Don't you see? Baraka has found the dagger of Vashna. He is going to sacrifice my daughter upon the altar of Makan to release the undead of Makengorge, the Chasm of Doom. During the age of the Black Moon, King Ulnar of Sommerlund killed the mightiest of all the Dark Lords, Vashna, with the Sommersword, the Sword of the Sun. Vashna's body and the bodies of all his troops were hurled into the bottomless abyss of Makengorge. He plans to lead the dead to victory, first to conquer Sommerlund and then all of the last lands, explains the Baron, fear in his eyes. You stare at the Baron in stunned silence. If Baraka completes the sacrifice, all is lost. What mortal army can stand against a legion of the dead? Captain Dval ushers you from the chamber and closes the door. I feared he was insane, and I refused to listen to his words. But the events of the last few days confirm my worst nightmare. He speaks the truth. As the dreadful significance of the prophetic verse begins to chill your spine, your thoughts are broken by the shrill blast of a war horn. Captain Dval strides over to an arrow slit in the wall and looks out across the desolate plain. As he turns to speak, his face is ashen gray. The bandits, they're launching an attack.
Boy, things just got real, huh? Okay. So we do possess Captain Dval's sword, so we're going to go ahead and go with this one, because the whole point of picking it up is so that we could give it back to him if we found him.
You draw the sword and offer it to the captain. A look of surprise and delight crosses his face as he examines the blade. I never expected to see my trusty steel again. It is a good omen for the battle ahead. Thanking you, the captain sheaths his sword in its scabbard, that until now, has hung empty from his belt. Remember to erase this sword from your action chart.
Okay, we can do that. I already did.
You follow Captain Dval as he hurries down the broad watchtower steps and out to the barricade. A rolling sound like distant thunder fills the air. Cavalry are pouring onto the plain from all sides, grouping up into battalions in preparation for the advance. Columns of foot soldiers in bright scarlet armor march through their ranks, herding a frightened wall of people before them. They're Ruanese, cries Dval, his hand shielding the light from his eyes. That cur Baraka, he's using them as a shield. All around you, the captain's men have drawn their bowstrings, awaiting his signal to fire. But it is an order he dare not give. Suddenly a hidden catapult hurls a massive black rock through the air, straight towards the barricade. You stare in horror as it bursts into flame and disintegrates, showering a rain of blazing oil on everyone beneath. The soldiers cannot evade the deluge, and many are badly burnt before the flames are smothered. A battle cry resounds from the enemy ranks, the signal to attack. The Ruanese are pushed aside and trampled by the onrush of scarlet warriors who now race towards the barricade. The blazing oil has scattered Dval's men, and the barricade is poorly defended. You hear Dval shout your name. His cloak and tunic are ablaze, and he is screaming for your help.
Okay, well, anytime we're given any of these, if you have this abilities, we generally want to take them because it generally makes things go better overall. The captain may die here, but we do have the Rake of Warmarn, 8 Kai disciplines. So let's go ahead and find out what happens when we do that.
You must rally the defenders or all is lost. You order 2 soldiers to help the captain and then leap onto an overturned wagon in order to see clearly the enemy advance. They have already reached the ruined perimeter of Ruanon and are now creeping forward under cover of the broken cottage walls. You shout orders to Dval's men to defend the barricade, but the enemy are less than 100 yards from the wall. You are afraid it might be too late to repel their attack. Turn to 186.
We can do that. Sorry, I was adjusting.
The Vasagonian bandits break cover and charge, and you give the order to fire. A cloud of arrows sweeps down upon the armor-clad men, the hardened tips penetrating their scarlet plate. The first wave of assailants tumbles and falls, the second wave falters. Another volley forces them back, and they retreat to the ruins to reorganize themselves. Here and there, groups of bandit warriors have survived the hail of death and reached the barricade. Most are slain as they try to enter, but a small and determined section of their boldest fighters have broken through close to where you stand. Suddenly, a thick-bodied warrior with oily, black hair tied in a knot at the back of his scarred head leaps onto the wagon and attacks you.
All right, we're gonna have a fight here, I guess. So, we would have gotten all of our hit points back by this point, I think, right? Yeah, we had enough non-combat pages to have filled that back up. So for those of you who are just joining us in this episode, we have this healing ability that gives us +1 endurance. It's hit points in this system for every non-combat page that we have. So by now, with the starting value we had, we would have filled up. So we are going to fight this Vasagonian warrior. It says we can evade by jumping from the wagon, but then that would leave someone else to have to finish them off. So as the brave hero that we are going to fight this guy to the death. So let's go ahead and get our information in. He has a combat skill of 18. So, he has a... Oops. Can you please... There we go. He has a combat skill of 18. So it's 20. Our combat skill minus his combat skill. It's a ratio of 9. So we're going to smash this guy. And he has 25 endurance. So we're going to handily beat this guy. It's just a matter of how much damage we're going to take while we do it. So we roll a d10, cross-reference it with the highlighted number here, and we'll see. Of course we roll a 2. A 9 and 3. So he takes 9, we take 3. Come on. High rolls. A 6, that's better. It's going to be 14 and 1. Still taking damage. Really trying to kill this guy. Let's go. High number. 6 again. So that's going to be 14 and 1. And 1. All right. So he's completely dead, but we took a bunch of damage there. All right. So that's the end of that combat. We win the fight, so we can go here.
Val runs past the wagon, leading a dozen of his best swordsmen in a countercharge and driving the enemy all the way back to the barricade. None escape alive. Those who survived Val's swordsmen are cut down on the plain by his archers as they run towards the ruins. The shout of victory has barely died away before you are faced by a new threat.
Okay, that's a hit point.
A mantlet, a large shield on wheels, is being pushed slowly across the body-strewn battleground towards the barricade. Arrow shafts soon bristle from its thick wooden planks as Dval's men fire their bows time and time again in an attempt to hit the shielded foe. Suddenly a robed figure darts from behind the mantlet and levels a black staff at the barricade. He is cut down by an arrow, but not before he has let loose from his staff a guttering ball of flame. It cartwheels across the plain and explodes with a tremendous roar, hurling the bodies of defenders and shattered barricade high into the air. Through the cloud of dust and debris, you can see a line of enemy cavalry charging across the plain. They wear tall plumed helmets of polished steel and breastplates of deepest crimson. In the wake of the fireball they pour through the remains of the barricade and attack. They give no quarter. A horseman spurs his horse towards you, his lance leveled at your chest.
All right, well, we can stand and fight the horsemen, or we can run back to the watchtower. As much as it makes sense to run back to the watchtower for safety, we have to try to save as many men as we can. So we'll stand and fight the horsemen. Horseman is charging you very quickly. You'll only be able to fight for 1 round of combat before the momentum of his attack carries him past you. Okay, so let's see. If you lose more endurance points than your enemy in this 1 round of combat, turn to 209. If the enemy loses more, then we turn to this one. If you both lose... All right. So we have to do 1 round of combat. So he has a 20, which means we have a combat ratio of 7. So that puts us in this round here. He has a 28. Let us roll to find out what happens. So we get 1 round of combat, and then we'll find out what happens. Hopefully we knock him from his horse. All right, so we need to make sure he's going to lose more than I do, but we have to find out how much we do. How much? If we roll a 0, we'll kill him instantly. That would be awesome. That is a 5. So he takes 11, and we take 2. Okay, so he definitely took a lot more than we did. So enemy lost more endurance points.
Your blow has unhorsed the bandit. He falls to the ground heavily, shattering his lance beneath him. He staggers to his feet and, raising the hinged eye shield of his helm, he stares at you and smiles wickedly, exposing a jagged line of blackened teeth. He spits his battle cry and runs towards you, unsheathing a broadsword as he closes in.
Okay, well, as before, we're not going to leave this guy to have to... We're not going to leave the other guys to have to fight this guy, so let's finish him off. You are in combat with the Vasconian horseman who is now on foot. You cannot evade him and must fight to the death. That's fine. Combat skill of 17. So that's a 10. He's down to 24 hit points. Let's see. 27. All right, we have to fight this guy to the death. So let's roll a 9 or a 10 and just end this in one fight with one round. Ah, 0. Okay, so we kill him instantly and take no damage. So that's awesome.
You run half-crouched to the barricade and prize a bow from the hand of a dead soldier. You have spotted the leader of the bandit cavalry, a tall, dark-skinned warrior with a thin, chiseled nose, rallying his horsemen at the foot of the stone watchtower. You know you must kill him before he can regroup his troops, or Dval and his hard-pressed men will be ridden down and mercilessly slaughtered. You notch an arrow and draw back the bowstring. The straining cord bites into your fingers as you take aim.
All right. So we have to roll around the number to see what happens. If we have a Kai Discipline of Weapon skill for any weapon, we can add 2 to the number that we picked. So we get to add 2 to whatever we roll. I'm assuming we need to roll high since we're adding a number. 7, 8, 9. So that puts us up into the highest option.
The arrow arcs through the smoke-blackened sky and pierces the officer's shining breastplate. You hear his scream of pain ring out above the din of battle and watch as his cruel eyes flicker and close. He swoons and slips from his saddle, your arrow lodged deep in his heart.
Nice.
To me. To me. Captain Dval's voice booms out above the battle noise. Rally to me, Somlanding. The brave captain draws about him a shielded wedge of soldiers and charges into the flank of the horsemen. They reel and buckle as the shield wedge hews its way through their company. A Vasconian herald, his crimson armor torn and his face smeared with blood, breaks free from the battle and sounds the retreat. You watch as the surviving bandits spur their mounts to the gallop, desperate to escape through the ragged hole in the barricade. Gripped by panic and fatigue, they ride through their own foot soldiers who are advancing to support them. The infantry falter and collapse as the cavalry ride them down.
Nice.
Captain Dval leads his men to the barricade and directs a lethal volley of arrows into the shattered infantry. It is the last straw. They throw down their weapons and flee from the clouds of arrows raining down on them from out of the smoke-filled sky. A battle cry, proud and strident, pursues them across the plain. For Sommerlund, for Sommerlund.
Very nice. We turned that battle around handily.
All around the barricade the enemy are retreating in disorder. Bandit warhorns announce the withdrawal, exhorting their defeated warriors to flee the battlefield. A jubilant Captain Dval emerges from the war smoke, his eyes shining like jewels beneath the rim of his battered helmet. We have triumphed, Lone Wolf. We have vanquished the foe. All around you, the captain's men are rebuilding the barricade and tending to their wounded comrades. It sorrows you to see Somlanding dead, but you take heart at how few they are beside the enemy's losses. The captain ushers you to the watchtower where your wounds are cleaned and dressed with lomspur. The herbs restore 6 endurance points. We have beaten this foe, but I fear that it is but a temporary reprieve, says the captain, his face now composed and somber. The sacrifice of Baron Vanelund's daughter must be stopped if we are to avoid catastrophe, for our strength will not avail us against a foe freshly risen from the grave. The words of the verse flood into your mind and a chill runs down your spine as you realize what may lie ahead. In 3 days' time, when the moon is full, Baraka will sacrifice the Baron's daughter at the buried temple of Makan, a sacrifice that will unleash the dead of Makengorge, the chasm of doom. You know you must prevent the sacrifice.
I feel like Indiana Jones right now.
50 miles south of Ruanon, the ruined city of Makan teeters on the brink of Makengorge. A cold sweat breaks out upon your brow as you contemplate the difficulty of your mission, for you are separated from your goal by 50 miles of enemy-held territory. But there is still a flicker of hope. With the enemy in confusion and retreat, your chances of success will be far higher now than before battle. Before you set off on your perilous mission, Captain Val offers you the choice of the following equipment and provisions. 1.
Okay. So for now, I definitely want to have the rope. So we'll take the rope. We have 2 rations. I'm hoping we're not going to get into another area where our hunting ability isn't allowed. So 2 rations ideally should be enough. I mean, even if we go into an area where we can, I don't know, they're probably going to tell us we can't hunt while we're in the Mackin Gorge. So having the hit points helps. Can't see how an hourglass is going to help. So we'll delete the hourglass. A tinderbox and a torch might help us light the way. Oh, we don't need this brass key anymore. We're not in the area, so we'll take that. We'll add a rations just in case. I kind of want to take that extra potion of Lomspur. So for those of you who are just following along, you get 8 items that you can carry with you that aren't considered special items. So you have to pick carefully what you're going to take. We definitely want the rope. We can take an extra meal just in case. The tinderbox will help us light the torch if we need it. And like I said, I can't imagine we're going to need an hourglass. I'm going to be really annoyed if we need the hourglass later, but we'll take that off. We'll take all of this and move it down. Sorry, I like to make sure that everything is okay. I think that's what we're going to do. Okay, so at this point, we have equipped up for the journey further south into the Mackin Gorge. We had an epic battle at Ruanon, and we are ready to go try to save the fair maiden. So we're going to go ahead and end the episode here, because it's a really good stopping point before we get into the next segment of the story. So I hope you guys are enjoying the adventure. I hope you come back next time to find out what happens, and if we are able to save the fair maiden. And yeah, so thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.